This is Life
This is Jeff.
from Life Leone, and you're listening to the Literati Records podcast.
Welcome to episode 148 of the Literati Records podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Graybeard, and I want to thank you for tuning in, turning on, and supporting independent music. I absolutely love working with and supporting our local Colorado music scene, and that is definitely where we focus a large chunk of our effort. But there's a reason our motto is support independent music and not just support local music. Besides, all independent music is local to somewhere, and today we take a look at Life Leone, the man and the band whose musical roots began in the desert sounds of California. Today Life Leone is mixing the heavy bass tones and down-tuned guitars of the desert rock that would spring from Kyuss, Slo Burn, Hermano, and Fu Manchu with more melodic, pop-inspired hooks to create a heavily fuzzed-out desert pop hybrid that feels at once familiar in tone, but new in spirit. On a recent stop at the Moon Room, I was able to sit down with Life and longtime friend and bandmate Jeff to discuss their latest album, Comes Crashing In, as well as the unique set of experiences that have formed Life Leone the man. As I mentioned on Monday's show, this week marked the one-year anniversary of the Literati Records podcast. But it also marks another milestone in the show's evolution as we bring on our first sponsor, Sasquatch Design. One of my goals for the podcast was to eventually work closer with and promote local businesses that help support our local music scene or are owned by local musicians who are active in the scene. And Todd over at Sasquatch Design does both. With experience in website design, identity and branding, logo and album design, Sasquatch is a great starting point for your next design project, and we are honored to have them on board. All of the music on today's show comes from the 2013 album Comes Crashing In, and is available on vinyl as well as digital download on the Life Leone website. For a complete track listing of today's episode and links to more artist details, visit our website at www.literatirecords.com. Now it is my pleasure to bring you my conversation with Life Leone. All right, well, I'm down at Summit Music Hall's Moon Room, where my guests are the band Life Leone. I have Life and Jeff here from the band as my guests. Hey, welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, man.
Thanks
For having us.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome to have you in town playing a show tonight.
It's good to be here.
Life, let me get names and instruments of the rest of the band.
So they call me Life Leone. That's kind of a name. It's a long story, but that's a name I picked up along the way. I sing and I play guitar. This is Jeff Halbert.
I play guitar.
And then we got Justin the kid. He plays bass. And Mike Nussbaum on drums.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, could you give us a brief history of how you guys kind of got together and started playing as Life Leone? I know you have a very interesting past that we'll get to in a little bit.
All right. As I started dreaming up the project and coming up with some ideas for it, the first person I told about it was Jeff. And Jeff and I had worked on a couple of records together, and in a couple different forms. He's an engineer and a producer and a number of different things, magician, and and so it was kind of like, I mean, at some point in the middle of the night, like in the studio, we were working on something else, and it just popped up. I'm like, we were just playing stuff out of the speakers. I'm like, dude, check out some of this heavier stuff I've been working on. And
which turned out we both kind of grew up with heavy music. Like, that was a big deal for both of us growing up, you know?
Yeah, and we had kind of been working on things all across the board, all over the place. And I didn't, I think neither of us realized that we had this connection until we were listening to those tracks, and it was like just a spark that very quickly ignited into a fire.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the latest album, Comes Crashing In. It's just a great album, I think. The guitars are really warm, rich, and it's just beautifully fuzzy. But the music comes off as very accessible, with strong pop hooks, without sounding overly poppy. You know what I mean?
That's cool. That's cool.
It's catchy, but it's not Bieber.
Right.
Thank God. But the tones are so rich, and I think part of it's the down-tuned guitars.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing, actually. By the way, what you just said was kind of what we talked about when we were like that's a huge compliment for us, because that was what we talked about, what we were trying to do, what Life was trying to do, and then what we came together to do was definitely like try to create this guitar sound that was massive. That was just, we wanted to hear something that like we kind of remembered from our past, but weren't really hearing right now.
Sure.
And then we kind of wanted to jam a square peg into a round hole in a way. And repurpose some of those guitars that we loved into some shit that you hadn't heard before.
Absolutely. Well, I know that you've mentioned that living in the high desert of California has been a big influence on your sound.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up out in the desert, and in kind of the early and into the mid and the late, that's really, I'd say, throughout the 90s, the scene out there was just on fire, man. There was a band called Kyuss, which you probably know. Kyuss, a monster.
You're stealing my next question, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, Kyuss at that time were kings of the desert, and which later kind of turned into Queens of the Stone Age and a number of different things. But there were a number of bands that were all playing out in the dunes, playing out in the desert. There was nowhere to play. There were no venues, and there were absolutely no places for people under 21 to go hang out. And so people resorted to taking generators out into the dunes and playing music, and I think that evolved into a competition of who could kick ass out in the dunes in a place that's actually very hard to make music sound good, and the sound just disappears. I mean, and particularly the low end, and so there were bands playing what I would say were a number of different genres, but the thread between them was that the low end was always just astoundingly present. It was like a fight for who could make it sound full outdoors in the desert where nothing bounces around, And so the low end just keep getting, it's like whatever band had the biggest bass sound and had the lowest guitar sounds ruled at the moment. Kyuss was winning.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know that there's something transcendent about that for me. It's like even as I left the desert for a while and played in a lot of different projects, man, nothing ever quite felt the same as all that low end in the music. The way that the physical reaction you get from that much bass and I think that informed the Life Leone sound quite a bit.
As you've alluded to, your background includes being part of that amazing scene. You were with Slo Burn.
Yeah. That's right.
And you mentioned Kyuss, of course, Fu Manchu and Hermano, and later Queens of the Stone Age.
Right.
Those bands really cultivated and influenced what would later give rise to stoner rock, whether that's an appropriate moniker or not.
Yeah.
It was the basis.
It kind of adopted that name,
yeah.
whether, either way.
Is it important to you to carry on that tradition that you were originally part of, incorporate those roots into what you're doing now, and carry it forward to like a whole new generation that maybe hasn't even heard some of those bands?
God, you know what, man? I would actually love to think of it that way, and to tell you the truth, I don't even know if I have to this point thought about. In my mind, that's the desert music is alive and well, but I guess it is important to make sure that it stays that way, and then maybe on some level, what we're doing is kind of just taking some of that desert sound and pushing it out in different directions and kind of blending it with different, bringing some new ideas to it. I should hope that it stays alive for a long time.
I mean, along the way, because it's you have these things in you, that you grow up listening to, or that you take, from here and there, that your things you hear along the way, in your journey through life, and those things become part of who you are as as an artist, or who you are as a musician, who you are as someone who creates something. So whether it's kind of like it or not, it's like all these things, that sound, the guitar sound is there, but then all these other things, the melody and the vocal, these things are like, they're kind of inescapable. They're just like who you are. Hopefully it becomes something new, I guess, in my mind. Hopefully it's becomes something that no one... I've always wanted to make records that, oh my God, that's some shit I've never heard before, but also kind of maybe powerful and familiar at the same time, so you can grab onto it.
Well, that's exactly how your newest album hit me. Was like, instantly, I connected because of stuff I had listened to, when I was younger with that desert sound.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a hold of a CD that a friend had called The Desert Sessions that I think Josh Homme put out, and brought in all kinds of people as well that weren't necessarily part of that scene, like PJ Harvey and Dean Ween. And it's like, this is just some shit, man. This is really good. And so when I heard your guys' album, it was instantly familiar, but I also instantly recognized, but I haven't heard this before.
That's very cool, man.
This is different, but it feels like a part of where I've been. Yeah. But definitely part of where I could go as well.
I'm glad to hear it, man.
And that may sound really bizarre, but...
No, I mean, it just sounds like what we want. I mean, anyone who makes art, of any kind wants to have those kinds of connections, with people, with an audience.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
The only thing that sounds bizarre about it is sometimes it's actually a little bizarre when people understand what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. It's bizarre when it's like, holy shit, he gets it, that's...
Time and distance, you just never know. And then all of a sudden, whoa.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a very unique set of experiences so far in your life, including growing up on a commune in California. You've lived in Vietnam and built guitars.
Yeah.
And you've gotten guitar instruction as a young man from the legend Nicky Hopkins.
Yeah, very briefly, but
But it was there.
It was there, man.
Now, any one of these experiences would be considered atypical of the average human life experience.
Yeah.
Would you say that those collective experiences have colored your view of the world and especially your art?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I owe the majority of those experiences to my parents, who are twice as bizarre as I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that they made sure that I'm one of 8 kids. They made a point to kind of cultivate an environment where not only was everyone open to new experiences, but was excited about chasing down experiences and wasn't afraid to express themselves. And so I think that in some ways that has been a guiding principle, and has taken me to some interesting places. And absolutely, some of the experiences I've had, I sort of just was in the right place at the right time. And then some of it, living in Vietnam and building guitars out there, is a little bit of like this infection that runs in my family of like, I want to do this different. Let's try this. Let's do it. Let's do the bad idea. Let's see what happens. And
Sure.
Yeah, man. I feel lucky for that.
Well, it looks like you guys are pretty much midway through the tour now, and headed back west after tonight. How has the reception been so far on the tour? People seem to be picking up on what you're laying down.
I think so, man. It is.
It actually, I feel like the majority of the places that we've been to, they've been pretty good to us, and really seemed like they really are genuinely into it. It's been really fun. We've met some really cool people that I feel like are going to be friends, of ours, after this, tour ends.
Yeah. I think most of the vast majority of the people we're playing to have never heard of us and have never heard our music. And so, I've started to get used to the fact that we get on stage a lot of the time we start playing and it's like, people are just sitting there just like, they're just hanging out. You don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But consistently, suddenly I realize, oh wait, that dude's tapping his foot.
Yeah.
That guy just put his phone down.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah, right. Like it's actually like when you're out here. This is the first time we've taken it on tour, and you almost do have to just like you take what you can get, and then you realize after the show that like, oh damn, wait, those people were kind of freaking out on the inside, but they didn't know what to sing along to, and they didn't know if their friend liked it, and they didn't,
It's that thing where they're trying to like, you hope that familiar thing is in there enough that they can grab onto, but again, that it's like, hopefully they are going, holy shit, what is this? That's, I haven't heard something like this, so they are putting their phone down, and they are going, what's going on here,
But it's going well, man. Yeah.
Cool. Do you have a most memorable show so far? Any place that just stands out like, man, we really tore it up that night, or the crowd was especially
San Antonio was really
yeah,
good.
I was going to say, for me, San Antonio,
Yeah.
that might be the case for everybody in the band.
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe just kind of a magic night and unexpected,
Yeah, I wasn't
I don't
expecting
think
that
any
at
of us
all.
had ever played San Antonio before.
No.
And so it was like, oh, okay, what time are we rolling in?
Right.
And we walked in the place right out of the gate. It goes such a long way when the people that work at a venue have a good vibe.
Sure.
And
You almost know if it's going to go well or not by how your reception is when you get to the venue.
within 4 minutes, how the next 8 hours is going to go.
Yeah, totally. And this was great.
It was great. Yeah, it was great. It was great. And we played with it was a guy playing solo, Lonely Horse, who usually it's him and a drummer, and he's got a record coming out on a major soon. I'm not sure if I can say who it is, but he's incredible.
Fantastic. Yeah.
He was
Lonely Horse.
Lonely Horse. Yeah.
Oh, hopefully our folks will go check that out.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
a magic
Great
show. I
shit.
couldn't even put my
Magic.
finger on what it is.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
rugs on the stage or something,
Totally. I mean, the vibe in the room, the people were good, and then like Lonely Horse, the vibe that he had was actually a perfect show. Like he's from the desert in Texas, and so we sort of had this commonality in our music somehow. Even though he wasn't we're much heavier than he is, but there's still something that was familiar to us in his music, that made
that's
it
very cool.
feel really, really amazing, as far as just the musical night went,
Well, what track from Comes Crashing In should we close this interview with?
I think it's got to be Is This Love,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
opening
totally.
track, and it's just the one that...
It's the first one you played for me, and when you were playing me demos, and I was just like, dude, we're gonna make this record. I love this. This is the deal right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is This Love?
Is This Love? Right on. Is This Love up next, guys? Thank you for taking time to speak with us and get us more familiar with you and your music. And man, we're just stoked to share it with anybody we can get to listen. So,
hey, our pleasure. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks. You
guys have a great rest of the tour, and hope you'll come back to Denver next time.
We will.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely will.